This is Little Wolf, a story written by someone in our community. Little Wolf. The car was purring. I'd always thought that ever since Daddy bought it. I shifted in my seat slightly while Daddy spoke quietly into his cell phone, trying to ignore the vibrations from the engine making my seat hum under me. This meeting was very important to Daddy, and I didn't want to go into it already hot and bothered. I forgot how much you like this car, Daddy said, startling me slightly from my thoughts. I ignored the pirate smile tilting his mouth and pressed my lips together when he reached across the center console to rest his hand on my bare knee. I like all your cars, Daddy, I said, and the pirate smile grew a little at the shake in my voice. But you've always said this car vibrates. Are you turned on, princess? Daddy's wolf smile made me a little weak inside. I guess I should work on my skills if you're this excited only 2 hours after we last played. Hey, Daddy, really? I said, forcing my voice not to shake this time, even as Daddy began rubbing smooth, soothing circles into my knee with his thumb. This meeting is important, and I didn't want to ruin it. You're not ruining anything, little one. Don't even worry about that. His eyes swept over my face for a moment. You remember the rules, don't you? I nodded. Yes. I do not leave your side alone. I only speak to you or Stefan, and I'm supposed to call you sir in front of them, which will be hard because I like you as Daddy. He smiled at me, warm and affectionate. I like me as Daddy too. He squeezed my knee. Good girl. But you forgot a rule. I did. I blinked, tilting my head as I racked my brain for a rule I'd forgotten. You forgot to tell me that you are a wolf, Daddy said patiently. I turned to look at him again. You are a wolf, and I can't cage you in. You do not bow. You do not yield. I nodded slowly. It was something he'd been saying for a long time now, to help me not feel intimidated by his men. I belonged to him. I was safe. I am a wolf, and they cannot cage me. I do not bow. I do not yield. I repeated with quiet conviction, earning an approving squeeze of my knee, and then a warm kiss. That's my girl, Daddy whispered against my mouth, and then climbed out of the car when his door was opened by security. I waited patiently in my seat for Daddy to come around the car and open my door for me. He always insisted on opening my door instead of allowing security to do so, like a prince from one of my novels. He offered me his hand to assist me out of the car, and I took it carefully, arranging the skirt of my dress to keep myself covered as I slid out. You look radiant, by the way, Daddy told me, lifting my hand to his lips to kiss my knuckles like a prince. Thank you, I said, my face warm. Ready to be wicked, sweet girl. I smiled, always. Taking Daddy's arm, I let him lead me into the large building. I knew that Daddy had a lot of meetings in this particular club because I usually accompanied him. But I stayed downstairs with the cook, who kept me entertained with food and stories while I waited. This time, Daddy was letting me sit in on the meeting. I was delighted and nervous. I assumed Daddy's men all knew about me in some capacity, as long as they didn't think I was some more, because I certainly wasn't that. I'm gonna prep the beast for your arrival, Daddy said. Once we'd stopped just beside the stairs, you'll stay with Stefan until I give him the go-ahead, and then you'll come in. How does that sound, precious? I nodded. Yes, Daddy. I blushed. Yes, sir. Then girl. He tapped my forehead, and then my nose, and then my lips, with just one finger. Once for comfort, twice to let me know he cares, and 3 times to tell me that it was all gonna be okay, just like always. You bow to no one, he reminded me, and then disappeared up the stairs. Stefan was part of Daddy's personal guard, and I liked him the best, if I was being honest, and he knew it too. The amount of people Daddy trusted to do as good of a job protecting me as he did was very slim. I was happy that Stefan made the cut. You look beautiful, Stefan said as he came to stand beside me, dressed impeccably in a suit that matched Daddy's. He certainly looked the part of the mafia security detail. I wondered for a moment where he'd hidden his gun tonight. Thank you, I told him warmly, feeling myself blush again. Stefan smiled at me and then turned his head slightly, listening to his earpiece. "They're ready for you," he told me, and offered me his arm. I was grateful to have the support. Though I loved my heels, climbing the steps in them would have been no easy task. Damn me and my constant desire to dress up. I liked when Daddy wanted to show me off. My nerves began to ratchet up as we approached the closed door down the hallway. I flexed my fingers and took some deep, calming breaths. I was a wolf. I do not yield. We stopped outside the door and Stefan gave me a smile. "Knock them dead, little wolf," he said, and then opened the door for me. The large, long table was filled completely with scary-looking men in suits, and they all turned to look at me when the door opened. The fear was so instant, so overwhelming that it was an effort not to let my shaking knees knock together. Instead, I focused on Daddy, who stood at the head of the table, leaning on the back of the chair watching me. The door was closed behind me, and I took a step forward, then another, then another. I crossed the floor with my head held high, not allowing myself to focus on the weight of the stairs. I was a wolf. I do not yield. I do not bow to anyone. Stefan took his place at Daddy's right side, and Daddy offered me his hand when I approached the chair. I placed my hand in his and he squeezed mine, probably when he felt my fingers shaking. He pulled the chair out slightly to allow me to sit. I didn't need to look around the table to see the disgust evident in their faces. I felt the weight of their annoyance, and I was sitting at the head, rather than Daddy, who perched easily on the arm of the chair. Taking his cue, the men began to take their seats as well, but Daddy was not having any of it. "You will not give and leave to sit yet?" Daddy said in the same voice he used when I was starting to get smart, or if I was whining too much. It made me tremble, and it wasn't directed at me. The irritation was palpable as the men stood to their feet again, waiting, watching. Daddy smoothed his hand along my hair, and it was an exercise in self-control not to purr at being stroked. But the directive was clear. He was allowing me to decide when they should sit. The power felt good. "You may sit now," I told the room. I could feel Daddy's smugness as all the men took their seats. And I lifted my chin a bit as Daddy reached down to straighten the lock necklace that I wore, the warm sign of my submission and ownership that I wore with pride. "Now then, we need to discuss this business arrangement because it feels like you're trying to swindle me out of a lot of money," Daddy said in the same commanding tone that made me instantly submissive. Of course we aren't. I was surprised to see the bravery at this table. Were these men not affected by the scary daddy voice? Yes, you are. I didn't know where my voice came from, but it bubbled out of me like a fountain. The brave men scowled at me. Oh, yeah? Mm-hmm. I hummed, and then turned slightly in my seat to look up at Daddy. May I have the document, please? Daddy didn't look away from my face as he snapped his fingers and held his head out expectantly. Stephen produced the document in question and placed it in Daddy's waiting hand, which he then gave to me. I turned back to the table and set the document down, which was marked up with a red pen for my corrections and my opinions in the margins. I remember the day that Daddy had me look over his proposal, which I had found when I was rifling through his desk drawers to look for a pen. I wasn't the most business savvy, I could admit, but I was good at editing. So I just started on making grammatical corrections, but the more I read, the more insane the proposal sounded. I had a hard time telling Daddy about it because he had had his hand between my legs while I sat in his lap making corrections, making it too hard to concentrate on what I was saying, until I couldn't take it anymore, and I was bent over the desk and taken hard and fast from behind, crying Daddy's name so loud that I was sure his housekeepers were blushing somewhere in the house. Your proposal has shipments being moved up through the southwest part of the city, instead of coming in from the west as we have been, I said, gaining more confidence as I spoke. But it's a very known well fact that there is a heavier police presence in the southwest area because of all the parks. If we moved shipments through that area, there's a higher likelihood of being caught, or the distributors having to bring less product due to the heavy police presence, so they don't get caught. Either way, this proposal results in money lost, regardless of route being more efficient. We can easily pay off the police, the first man said, glaring at me, which still costs more money. The point of this business deal was to propose a more efficient shipment route while increasing our profits. The proposal has nothing of benefit, I said and frowned. I didn't know we were letting the bitches run the business deal now, another brave soul grumbled. Daddy was so lethally still that I had to curb my very visceral desire to shrink down in the chair. Be very fucking careful how you speak about my girl, because I won't put a bullet in your fucking body so fast, Daddy said, deadly calm. Apologize. The man said nothing, and I heard a gun cock from behind me just as Daddy pulled his own gun out. Now, Daddy said in pure command. Sorry. The man grumbled half-heartedly, and I smiled. So, in case it wasn't clear, I will not be accepting your proposal, and you can consider our working relationship as void until you can come up with a better plan to keep my distributors happy and my products safe until it's time to sell, Daddy said simply, and rose from his perch on the armchair, offering me his hand again so that I could stand as well. Without so much as another word, Daddy tucked my hand into his arm again and escorted me from the room, the security detail hot on our heels. I wanted to appear confident, so I resisted the urge to beg Daddy to tell me how I did, if he was proud of me. Bring the car around, won't you? Daddy said to Stefan, who disappeared down the steps to do as he was told. You are perfect in there. You know that, don't you, precious? Daddy said to me. I was? I asked. You were. Daddy's face was warm as he smiled at me, completely different to the scary mafia mask he wore from the scary guys in suits. You certainly do for a reward when we get home, he added, a delicious promise making my toes curl. Or when you get hot and bothered in the car again. And be so hot and needy that you'll beg me to pull you over fill you up like last time. I whimpered. I was having a hard time not begging for that now. As if he could hear my thoughts, Daddy's hand slid from my waist to my hips, using it to pull me closer against him. His mouth was warm against my cheek. Or should I bend you over the sink in the bathroom downstairs and see if I can make you scream loud enough to be heard over the music? Daddy suggested, lowering his voice as he spoke near my ear, making my whole body hum with desire. Please, I whimpered. The pirate smile was back. Man is precious. Please what? Please, Daddy, take me home now, I asked politely. As you wish, sweet girl. And then I followed Daddy on shaking legs into the waiting night.